two screens so I can see. So we are live now, I believe. How you doing, Johnny boy?
Yeah, good. Morning. Bright and breezy on a Monday morning.
Yeah, that's
Sun's out.
Yeah. So you have a busy week?
Yeah, it's been a very busy week. Lots of bits of data out, and yeah, it's quite. I don't know. Not too much happened. I think just watching some of these old politicians tell a load of rubbish and stuff. Is it all like building houses and stuff like that, isn't it? But yeah, quite interesting, isn't it? We've got 16 housing ministers that we've had, haven't we? In the current, yeah, I think in this current government's time,
Wow.
Yeah.
That leads me on really well to what I was going to talk about today about consistency.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, they're consistently changing the ministers in government. Yeah, so that's crazy because it's been. If you think about it, we haven't had a stable government for some time, have we? We haven't had a real stable period of leadership from since Tony Blair, really. If you think about it.
I don't know how long was Cameron in for. He was in for a little while, wasn't he?
He was in there. He was in for a little while, but
yeah,
it wasn't
Cameron,
that. Was it that long? I can't remember now. Can't remember, but yeah, you're probably right. Cameron's probably the last one. There was a bit of consistency and continuity there because there doesn't seem to be any continuity in government, but that's for a different time. And we'll talk about it another time. But so I want to talk about consistency today because I think it's quite important as entrepreneurs, small business owners, and go-getters that we are aware of our consistent behaviour with things we do consistently, and that can go both ways, John. Right? It can go you consistently be bad or you can be consistently good, i.e. doing something or consistently not doing something. And I think that's something that I pay particular attention to at the moment with certain things I'm doing. I mean, can you relate to that at all in any way?
Yeah, I would say it's probably quite a weakness of mine as well, because I think it's sort of it's definitely you have to force things to do things, like you say. I think it comes back down to, for me anyway, you've got to put systems in place. You've got to constrain your if you're not naturally, if you like chasing certain things, your intentions are at certain, all over the place, that sort of thing, or doing the things you like to do, you've got to box yourself back in, haven't you? And for me anyway, so consistency is not a natural thing. So you have to have boundaries that force you to become more consistent than you would normally be. For me anyway. So I think it's a very hard one.
Really. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, it is hard, and
very
I think
educated.
I think let me just double check. We are live, aren't we? Can you?
Yeah, got red light in the corner. So
I'm talking about online on Facebook. I can't see it on Facebook. That's the only thing. So perhaps someone can tell us if we are live or not. I think there's a clue there in what you was just telling me about. It's one of your weaknesses, and I think you're saying you have to if you're one of these people that like to do certain things or you get distracted easily, then really comes down to consistency is probably the prerequisite to consistency is commitment. And I think that's important to understand, that comes before the consistency, because if you are committed to doing something, then the consistency will follow that. So I think that's an important part of the process of understanding that. And I'll give you an example. I'm committed at the moment to doing 100 life lessons, and I'm doing one small short video on YouTube every single day, regardless of what the results are, i.e. whether it's getting views or not. But the idea is that I'll do them 100 videos over 100 days, but it means I've got to do them at some stage. And there are days when I've left it till 11 o'clock in the night, evening to actually record it. and get it up there. But I've got it up in that 24-hour period, that one day. And I think that's when I made the commitment. There were honestly, John, there's been days when I'm thinking, I really don't want to do it today. I really don't want to do it today, because it's not just shooting a video, it's editing it. And then it's thinking about a thumbnail, and it's thinking about the other things. It's not just a quick 2-minute chuck it up and hope for the best. There is a thought process to it and a commitment to it. So I think commitment is the prerequisite to consistency. And so if you think about something you have been consistent at, you made a commitment. If you think back when you was running, all right, we use running analogies a lot because it's an easy one to point to. But when you was at your fittest, you was committed, wasn't you?
Well, I mean, I think you just hit the nail on the head. I mean, there's got to be an interesting crossover where you go from consistent action to a habit.
Right.
And that's the thing. So basically, like you say, I think you start out with a plan, and you start out with a commitment, and obviously that becomes a consistent. Like your posting of videos at the moment is you've started out with a commitment, and your consistency is going to help you get there. But then you know, they used to say, didn't it? Do something for 30 days, it becomes a habit. 100%. I think it gets to that point where, you know, I think I went through a phase where I was going to like run for every day, and like literally, I was doing a bit of car racing at the time and all that, and it was like literally like sometimes, you know, we had to be at the track by 8 o'clock in the morning, so I was getting up at 6 o'clock and running 5K because you start looking ahead, don't you? You think, which is probably what you're doing with your little video. You probably work out my video is going to take 40 minutes by the time I do this, do that, do my short and stuff like that. So it's like, what point of the day am I building that 45 minutes in to get that video done? And that's where I was at with my run. It was like, well, I'm going to be at the track from 8 o'clock. We're going to be racing, you know, then we'd, you know, after the racing, we'd be chatting to the people. So then we'd go out for a meal at night. So it's like, right, the easiest thing is let's just get it done in the morning. Let's just get up early, as much as I'm not an early person, and get that run out of the way at 6 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, I think there's definitely got to be, you know, what's it called? Commitment, consistency, and then habit.
Yeah, I think the thing with the only thing I've got an issue with saying that, so I don't always agree with that. I don't know where it came from. I have to do some research on.
Well, I think it came from someone. They reckon that if you, I think it's from amputees. That's
if you think about it, right, then the habit didn't continue. So I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think it comes down to certainly with me. When I think back on the things I've done, and then I've ridden my bike all week because the goal isn't there at the moment.
Yeah.
I've got other things to focus on. But I know there's going to be a moment in the future when probably the end of this month when I go, right, I've got to build up my mileage to prepare myself for the events I've put in for. So it's not been my priority, and I think that's the key. Is whatever it is it a priority at that moment in time? Because there's all different things going on in our lives, and we have to prioritize certain things. And the priority for me was the 100 life lessons would lead to a bigger picture down the line, but I had to do it to get the momentum on the YouTube channel and get that consistency. So there was a longer term goal in that respect. And when I start riding my bike again, when I say riding, I'm not talking about just doing a half an hour. I'm talking about a couple of hours at a time. Then I'll build that into my plan because that becomes a priority. So I'm one of these where I'm always adapting depending on what's a priority in my life. So I think that the habit scenario is, I think it's more basic for more basic stuff. But when you've got bigger stuff in your life, it's more difficult. Like a run is a classic example, because if you'd built that habit, you'd be doing it every single day, wouldn't you?
Well, you do. I mean, you do get into that point, and I think, and it's obviously something a life thing will get in the way, and it'll break that habit. So I think there is certain things that become habit forming and also addictive as well, isn't it? Because
I think that's okay.
you know, but I mean, I think coming back, I think there was someone got their arm or their leg cut off, and I think it was that you get that sense, if you, evidently according to the thing I was reading, that if your arm or leg comes off, you still feel it's still, your body doesn't realize it's gone, so you still feel your fingers or your toes for 30 days. That's where I think that came from.
Oh, I don't know. I'll have to do research. But the point I'm trying to make is you got that commitment first, that prerequisite. Then you've got the consistency, and I think that leads also, and I think what precedes that as well is clarity. Because if you've got clarity on what it is the goal is or what the objective is, then it's a lot easier to lay it down. And it's so, again, going back to the cycling, I know what the long-term objective is, and so I know there's a plan I can put into place, and I know when I need to do it, and I've done it before, so I'm very clear on that. And I'm not as clear on the YouTube stuff because I don't know where that's going to go. I don't know how, because there's 1 minute, I'm getting great numbers and then I'm getting horrendous numbers. And that's the other thing you have to do is manage we've had this conversation on this podcast before, where you manage your expectations while you go along, because that can be hard sometimes, very hard to manage your expectations.
Yeah, and obviously because you can't, there's so many variables, isn't there? Especially in that, isn't it? I mean, especially like, you've got to try and change certain things and then monitor it and test it, isn't it? So you whether you post a video at 9 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock at night, it's just can influence on, how it get picked up by the algorithms and stuff like that.
Yeah. There is. I've noticed that if you do it at certain times, you've got more success, and it's usually 11 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock at night, because people are watching it at certain times, and the algorithm pushes it out, and it might throw you into a seed audience. But that's for another time anyway. But yes, it's understanding the variables in whatever you're doing. And if I think back, and it's funny because I was doing a bit of sort of reflection this morning and thinking back in times in my life when things changed dramatically and what sort of mindset I was in at the time, because there's a different mindset when you're doing something new and exciting and you've got that commitment, and then you get that consistency in it. And this is where the thought of this came from this morning, versus when you're tired and you're bored, or the things haven't gone wrong, you're in a different state. And if you put yourself in the right state, you get clarity on what you want to do, and then you commit to it and get the consistency going. You'll get the results you want, providing you do that. And sometimes we have to stop and just reflect, because reflection, I always find reflection's a great thing to do, because then I ask myself the question, what state was I in when that happened? I mean, I'm doing a presentation for a webinar, and I usually tell the story about coming from baker to estate agents, but I never tell the story really for when I went from estate agents to self-employed. The real story, when I went from driving a mini metro that cost me 250 quid because it had a ticket on it, an MOT on it, and then just every day doing something towards what I wanted to achieve, which was that freedom, not having to work for somebody else. Within a year, driving a brand new Merc, and then within 18 months buying it doesn't sound a lot now, it's 165 grand house, which was a lot of money then. It's probably equivalent to 700 grand today, within 18 months of going self-employed. But that was because I was consistently doing it. I was committed, and there was a lot of there was a lot of belief, there was a lot of drive, because I didn't want to go back to working for someone else, because the alternative was not appealing. So I think sometimes we have to reflect on some of the times when we've got ourselves out the mire or changed or done something really different. We've all got stories, haven't we? If you think about it, if you think about your life, right, there've been moments in your life where things have changed on a penny. You know, it's and it's a direct direction in your life that gets momentum, and then you just get pulled along, don't you? You don't have to work hard. You just get pulled along.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. No, definitely. I think. Yeah, it's an interesting. I mean, I think that's and probably the time you want to be most consistent is probably the time that you don't feel like you want to be most consistent. If that makes sense, it's probably going through those. It's probably you reap the rewards from when you're at the bottom of the sine wave. Effectively, I mean that's the time where consistency pays off because you're doing something that you don't want to do. You posting a video when you don't really want to do it is
I think if they're posting the video was actually doing the videos. I think the over the last 21 days, there was a particular time last week where I was thinking, what's the point in doing this? There was a point at which I thought what's the point in doing this? Because I think my views had dropped to about 8 or something on the main video. And I'm thinking, what if people aren't watching this, what's the point? But there's a big picture. Yeah, that video is going to stay there. Someone's going to get the benefit of that video one day, if not now. So you just got to keep on and being consistent and doing it. And if I break it at any stage, then I got to start again, effectively, because it's 100 life lessons, it's 100 days. It means 100. It's 100% commitment every single day. So even though I had that thought, it wasn't very long, and I had to kick myself up the backside and control my emotions, because that's another part of this is remaining consistent, as you say, is when you don't want to do it. You have to manage that self-talk, feelings, whatever comes up, you've got to manage that. How do you manage yours though, John? If you've got that monkey on your back and screaming in your ear saying, "Oh, don't do that today," how do you do it?
I think there's two states, isn't there? One is like you're going through something you've not gone through before. So I think that's the hardest part. That's the hardest one, isn't it? So if it was me, we've all had experiences where we've gone through something different, but we've pushed through it. Well, I would think most people have. So the advantage you've got is like you just quite nailed. You said like, I'm not doing any cycling at the moment, but I can just drop into it. I can write a routine. I know where my goal is going to be. I work backwards. I need to do X amount of mileage on my bike for 12 weeks in order to get to my goal. So that's a transferable skill that you're going to take into your video thing. So I suppose the only difference is the fact that it's an alien thing that you're doing. And it's like, I suppose, like that was they saying that the hardest thing's starting, isn't it? So after you've done 2 or 3 videos, some people might be scared of doing a live or something like that, or going.
Yeah, I get. Like a friend of mine was oh, I don't want to do a video. I fucking just do it. Yeah. Just shoot one. Yeah. But supposing I get it wrong, and that was another thing what I went through. Right, is they're changing. The videos are changing from the first one to the 21st one, which is number 79. They're changing. I'm changing the thumbnails. I'm changing the headlines. So I'm going back and altering them as well. But when I first started doing it, was really exciting. I was really looking forward to it, and I quickly realised it wasn't going to be what I thought it was. I thought it was going to have this big impact and it was going to explode, but it didn't. Right, and I had to manage that expectation quite quickly, which was, why am I doing this? And it's funny because I've just seen some comments. Right. Morning, lads. The Neville and Phil online. Neville said, "This is interesting. I thought I was the only one at times. I thought, why bother?" And then, as you say, momentum moves you along and comes to start. Have consistency, because we aren't the only ones. Because other people are feeling it. They do go through that, and I was going to use the word soul destroying, because it can be soul destroying if it's not going the way you want. But you have to stop that soul destroying feeling and say, no, not today. It ain't going to happen today. I think there was a phrase when I rode London to Paris in 24 hours, you know, and the woman who started that, young woman, and she said, one day I won't be able to do it, but today's not that day.
Yeah.
Today's not that day. And I think that's a great saying. You know, one day I may not be able to do it, whether you're dead or whether you can't do something. But today's not that day. So you know, it's important.
No.
So you said there was two things. You said there was the two things, wasn't it? There was the new one, the unknown. What was the other one you was going to say?
Well, I think that's it. The fact that I think that if you've done something, then you know you've got that memory, muscle memory. You know, so I think you've just got to, you know, you've got to relate back to something that you've gone through. I mean, it's like, I mean, you know, like standing up in a room and public talking, isn't it? They say it's a massive public speaking. They say it's a massive, you know, pet hate of people. You know, they're terrified of doing it. And but then once someone's done it, you know, it might not be public talking, it could be something else, but you can relate to that. You can say, remember when you had this fear about standing up in a room of 30 people and sort of talking for 10 minutes, how that was false effectively, and it was not a problem. And then so I think I think the hardest things in a new discipline is getting started. But that's why people do these 7-day, 30-day, you know, challenges, don't they? Because if you call yourself out and you go on Facebook and you say, right, I'm gonna walk 10,000 steps for the next 30 days, it's like it's just calling, it's just putting that frame around it, isn't it? It's comes back to being held accountable, doesn't it? But you're putting it
exactly. So I was just thinking that as you were saying it, you're holding yourself accountable publicly. You know, and me doing these 100, you know, life lessons is the same thing. It's a publicly stating that I'm going to do it every single day, so I've got to do it every single day. So that's my accountability. Accountability Mondays was the same. You know, every day I made that decision after Zoe's ride last year. That was it. I was going to do that, and we've been doing it ever since. And I think and you made a really valid point, and I sort of touched on it. I think we could sort of delve into that a bit more. Is that, you know, that then people are looking for perfection all the time. I've got to make a perfect video before I put it out there. I don't mind how bad it is or how good it is. It's the consistency that's going to get me to make it better. If you think of anyone that does anything to start with, they don't always do it exceptionally well the first time. You gain experience and you change and you learn as you go along, and you make it better. And the only way you can do that with his experience, because you can know something intellectually. It's like driving a car. You know, I can get the manual to drive a car and read it and know how to drive the car. But getting in there experientially, it's a completely different scenario. So I look at these videos each week. It's like learning to drive. I've got to learn editing. I've got to learn thumbnails. I've got to learn structure. I've got to there's all these things I've got to learn how to promote it, and how every video is teaching me another thing, and eventually I'll get to the stage where I'm conscious competent. Conscious competent? You know, unconscious competent, and I'll just do it without thinking, and it's hard if you're looking for perfection. I'm afraid you ain't gonna find it.
No, 100%.
It's not there.
No, and it's I think the result or the reward you get is the action, not the you know. I mean, obviously, and also what's it that you know, competition, isn't it? The only competition is the person you were yesterday. So by the very nature of doing the video, you're going to learn something, and then obviously you're I mean, YouTube and places like that, and you think, oh, I don't quite like how that works, and then you go on YouTube, and so you're constantly improving it. Like your thumbnails now, you know, you probably didn't even do a thumbnail, you know, when you first started.
I didn't, and now I'm doing, and they're not right. They're nowhere near what I want them to be, and I'm learning how to do it. You know, so it's one step at a time, and by the time I've finished, and also the other thing is when you change a thumbnail, you have to go back and change all the rest of them, and that could be a pain in the rear end as well. Because if you've done 21 videos and you've got to change 21 thumbnails, you know, that's a lot of work as well. But it's that commitment originally, that consistency. It's learning from everything you do, and I can equate that back to when I first started trading in property, or when I first got into a estate agency. You know, you have to be consistent, do certain things to get the results that you want in the end, and you've got to have that clear mind of what it's going to be. If you don't, then you're pissing in the wind, so to speak.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, definitely.
So I think that's a good one today. I think it's think about your business. Think about, you know, what you're doing if you want to start, or if you are an entrepreneur and you've got some ideas. Start being consistent with your actions, because they will lead to results in the end, good results. Because if you continuously do something, you'll get better at it and better at it and better at it. And the more you do it, the more confidence you have. And that's another thing, is confidence. You know, if I think about things I do now, I don't even think about them. Right? I do them subconsciously because they're, you know, and I look I make it look easy. Certain things I make look easy. They weren't easy to start with.
Yeah,
you know, they were difficult, and my life lesson today is funny. I was talking to you earlier about it. Was seek first to understand before being understood, and that's another habit that I got into over years of understanding that. Is that you?
Yeah, that's Well, 9 o'clock meeting, but
yeah.
No.
So that's a habit, a consistent habit that I learned, and now I do it automatically. I don't even think about it. So
Right.
You can literally take this and put it into other areas as well by learning a skill and being consistent with that skill.
Yeah.
Because how many people learn something and never fucking do anything with it? That really annoys me. You think, what's the point in learning it then?
Oh yeah, massively. Yeah. Yeah.
There's an old saying: you can read a book, you can go through a book, but has the book gone through you? You know, so it's like anything. If you learn something, or implement it, be consistent with it.
That's it. I mean, especially if people. I mean, that's the advantage that, you know, a lot of the time if it depends what you're doing. Like at the moment, you could go on a YouTube video and say, how do I create the perfect thumbnail? But then you can implement it straight away, and you've just turned knowledge into action, haven't you? And that's so powerful.
Yeah, but I don't know how many videos I've watched. God knows how many about thumbnails. And half the problem I found was the technology of going onto a website and learning how to do different things. Because it's not just the thumbnail itself, it's learning how to do all the creative stuff. Because unless I go and pay someone to do it, which I probably will do eventually.
Yeah.
But this is a small project that I'm doing myself and learning. So yeah, it's a lot more to just doing it than. Yeah. Anyway.
No. Good.
So that's today's,
video sorted.
Yeah. So we'll see you next week. You take care.
Okay. Have a good week, everyone.
Bye.
Catch you later. Bye.